British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish,
Good morning and welcome to BCIT's The Crow. I'm your host, Eden Chipperfield, and here are your top news headlines for 10 o'clock. The newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney has unveiled and sworn in his new cabinet at the Rideau Hall in Ottawa. Sworn-in ministers who are part of Carney's cabinet include David McGuinty as the Minister of National Defence, Joanne Thompson as the Minister of Fisheries, Shafkat Ali as the President of the Treasury Board, Chrystia Freeland as the Minister of Transport and Internal Trade, Gary Anand Shanguri as the Minister of Public Safety, Richie Valdez as the Minister of Women and Gender Equality and the Secretary of State for Small Businesses and Tourism, Stephen McKinnon as the Leader of the Government in the House of Commons, Anita Anand as the Foreign Affairs Minister, Patty Hatju as the Minister of Jobs, Stephen Gilbert as the Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture, Sean Fraser as the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Dominic LeBlanc as the President of the Privy Council, Melanie Joly as the Industry Minister, and Francois-Philippe Champagne as the Minister of Finance and National Revenue. In local BC updates, a BC First Nation Council has spoken out against a bill proposed by the provincial government. Bill 15 would accelerate projects in an attempt to counter U.S. tariffs. The Nuu-chah-nulth Nation in Port Alberni says that the bill is infringing Indigenous rights and it does not conform to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The Nuu-chah-nulth and other First Nation communities are asking the province to allow Indigenous groups to review the proposed legislations to make amendments to protect rights and title of Indigenous communities. And in more news in British Columbia, let's talk to Matea Hukalak, my producer in the studio, to speak more about what is going around in our province.
Hi, thank you, Eden. So the BC Association of Clinical Counselors just revised their training program, which includes new training for registered professionals and will support lifelong learning with over 8,500 registered clinical hours. The registration in BC is up to 90%, which will enhance professional accountability. And with what we're chasing in the studio today, we have some reporters chasing mental health in sports for Mental Health Awareness Month and more bear sightings in Burnaby, what we can expect come this summer and how we can interact with wildlife. Back to you.
Excellent. Looking forward to hearing those stories later on. Regarding to our neighbors, never neighbors to the south, High Commissioner for Human Rights Liz Thrussell says that the way deportations are being carried out in the U.S. are quite concerning.
The manner in which some of the individuals were detained and deported, including the use of shackles on them, as well as the demeaning rhetoric used against migrants, has also been profoundly disturbing.
The flights are part of an order from U.S. President Donald Trump under the Alien Enemies Act that allows the president to arrest, deport, and relocate individuals who come from a foreign country. In more Trump news, he is making his way through his tour of the Middle East, including a visit to Saudi Arabia, where he met with the Crown Prince Mohammed, and they signed a host of economic and bilateral cooperation agreements. This has occurred during the Trump's tour of the Mid-East tour set to last for the next 4 days. In the dozen of agreements that both Trump and Prince Mohammed have signed include a dozen agreements regarding cooperation between their government militaries, justice departments, and cultural institutions. The Crown Prince has already committed nearly $600 billion investment to the United States. A long-awaited resentencing hearing is set to begin this week, with Eric and Lyle Menendez will make their case for freedom after spending decades in prison for the 1989 shotgun murders of their parents. As well as the first day of the 78th Cannes Film Festival begins with high expectations. The festival takes place over 12 days that premieres various anticipated films, including from directors Ari Aster's Eddington, as well as Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Those have been your news headlines at 10 o'clock. I'm Eden Chipperfield, passing it over to your sports news with Caleb Templeton.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hello, I'm your host, Caleb Templeton, and here are your 10-10 sports headlines. We start off in hockey as the Edmonton Oilers defeated the Vegas Golden Knights 3-0 at home in Game 4. Oilers goaltender Stuart Skinner had this to say after the shutout win.
Shutout, how'd that feel?
Yeah, it felt great. All I can really say is thanks to the guys playing in front of me. They were amazing tonight. Made my job a lot easier. They were battling, a lot of block shots, and I mean, the way that we played defensively was superb, so a lot of credit to the guys.
That first period.
The win results in Edmonton taking a 3-1 series lead over Vegas. Vegas will host Game 5 of the series on Wednesday. Now to the Eastern Conference, where 2 playoff games were on last night's slate. The Carolina Hurricanes beat the Washington Capitals 5-2 at home in Game 4 to take a commanding 3-1 series lead. Carolina is now 1 win away from the Eastern Conference Finals, a feat they accomplished back in 2022. Meanwhile, for the East's number 1 seed Capitals, they look to avoid elimination as Game 5 takes place in Washington on Thursday. Continuing in hockey, the IIHF World Championships are currently happening. Team Germany beat Team Norway 4-1, and currently going on, Team Latvia is beating Team Slovenia 5-2. Team Canada will play Team France, while Team Kazakhstan plays Team Hungary at 11:20 a.m. today. 2 playoff games happened in the NBA last night. First, the New York Knicks defeated the Boston Celtics 121-118 in New York to take the 3-1 series lead. Celtics All-NBA guard Jason Tatum had 42 points in the loss before he suffered an apparent leg injury while going in for a rebound. Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla had this to say on Tatum's injury.
It's a lower body injury, and they're going to get an MRI tomorrow. So, we'll see where it goes from there.
The Timberwolves beat the Golden State Warriors 117-110 in Game 4 of their best-of-7 series. Timberwolves All-NBA guard Anthony Edwards had 30 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in the game. With the win, Minnesota now takes a 3-1 series lead over the Golden State Warriors before Game 5 in Minnesota on Wednesday. The Dallas Mavericks won the 2025 NBA Draft Lottery last night, resulting in them obtaining the first overall pick in this year's draft. The favorite to be drafted first overall is Duke forward and guard Cooper Flagg, who won the Naismith Trophy in 2024, which is given to college basketball's best player. The Toronto Raptors had a 7.5% chance of obtaining the first pick. Despite this, Toronto ended up with the 9th overall pick. The NBA draft will happen in June. The BC Lions have announced that world-famous rapper Snoop Dogg will perform before the Lions' Week 1 game. The Lions will face the Edmonton Elks in Week 1 to kick off the 2025 CFL regular season. Now to more football news. The NFL has confirmed a few more games that will happen during the 2025 season. The NFL announced that the Kansas City Chiefs will host their arch-rival Denver Broncos on Christmas Day. The league also mentioned the international games that will happen during the season, including the Minnesota Vikings against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Ireland and the Los Angeles Rams against the Jacksonville Jaguars in England. Other games will also happen in England, Spain, and Germany, while the Los Angeles Chargers will host a Week 1 game in Brazil against an unnamed team. In baseball, the Seattle Mariners lost to the New York Yankees 11-5 last night. The loss results in the Mariners continuing their 4-game losing streak after losing 3 games to the Toronto Blue Jays. Former Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet will not be out of a job for long. The former Jack Adams Award winner is expected to be hired by either the Philadelphia Flyers, Boston Bruins, or Seattle Kraken soon. Tocchet had a record of 108, 65, and 27 in 3 seasons with the Canucks. Those have been your 10-10 sports updates. Come back again at 10:40 for more sports news. I'm your host, Caleb Templeton, and you are listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the